Do you remember the place you grew up that you used to call home? Maybe you've moved on from that place as you've grown. Maybe you're still nearby. Or if you're younger, maybe you're still living there with your parents or guardians. Maybe that place has happy memories of days gone by, of the friends you used to have there, of the roads, parks, and woods that you used to explore. Maybe that place has sad or painful memories of hurt, of times that weren't so great or memorable. Either way, the places that we grow up in that we used to call home have a profound effect on who we are. They help shape us into the people that we are today, sometimes in positive ways and sometimes in negative ways. Perhaps the lessons we've learned there made us better through positive experiences. Maybe they taught us what was and wasn't important to us through the negative ones. Regardless, I bet if you went back to that place, you could still find your way around relatively easily. And the places that remain would bring memories flooding back even if they had changed a little bit. This was my experience. I grew up in a small Midwest town. 3 stoplights, limited food options, everyone knew everyone. Your friends were your classmates and neighbors and coworkers, and it seemed that everyone knew everyone's business for better or worse. I've moved on from that place, but every now and again I find myself back there in the place that used to feel like home. The memories come flooding back, some good, some bad, but all part of the person that I turned out to be today. But it wasn't quite the same as it felt back when I was younger. Maybe this experience I'm describing is only relatable if you also grew up in a small town, or maybe it's applicable no matter where you grow up. Either way, I've been feeling rather nostalgic about the concept of home lately. Pokemon's Kanto region felt like home. Recently, Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green were released on the Nintendo Switch for Pokemon's 30th anniversary, and this gave me a great excuse to revisit a place that I had not been in a long time. While I've come to love and appreciate each generation of Pokemon in its own unique way, if you forced me to choose, I would probably tell you that Generation 1 is still my favorite to this day due to a complex combination of nostalgia bias and emotions tied to it. I know this is technically Gen 3 before you type your comments, Fire Red and Leaf Green, not technically Red and Blue. Just roll with me here. But like my old home, I had moved on. It's been a while since I had visited Kanto, and I wasn't quite sure what to expect. It was a strange feeling to start up Fire Red and find myself in Pallet Town again, and as I investigated the feelings I had, I came to realize that I was feeling a lot like I did when I went and visited the places I used to call home. There was at times a general warmness I felt traversing the Kanto region. I knew these roads, these paths, these woods as well as any from my childhood. The maze-like Viridian Forest, the atmosphere of Mount Moon, the hustle and bustle of Celadon City and Saffron City. The ability to navigate these places with ease had been retrieved from somewhere deep within the recesses of my brain. The random NPCs and trainers I encountered felt like old acquaintances, like people you would see over and over again at a small town grocery store, local bar, or restaurant. The Pokemon that inhabited Kanto felt like old friends I hadn't seen in a long time, but with whom I had grown up with. My familiarity with the games I played to death as a kid came flooding back, and this playthrough of Fire Red was less an adventure in an exciting world and more like a stroll through old neighborhoods where I used to live. While I welcomed the warmth of familiarity, this trip through Kanto felt different than any previous trip before, and I really wanted to understand why. So this ultimately is my attempt to identify and come to terms with my feelings towards this game. But before we get to all the psychoanalyzing, let me recount the story of my most recent journey through the Kanto region. When it comes to Pokemon, I'm a creature of habit. I have an established list of my favorites, and I rarely deviate from that list, even when exploring new regions and new games. Starters like Squirtle and Treecko were regulars, eventually evolving into the mighty Blastoise and Sceptile. My longtime favorite Pokemon, Arcanine, was a staple of my team in every region he appeared, crowding out all other fire types. The mighty Gyarados was a reliable water type no matter what game you played. The evolutions of Umbreon and Jolteon were the only ones of the Eevee line that I had ever used, with Umbreon being a close second to Arcanine for my favorite. I adored Ampharos and featured the electric type in my party often. Lucario was a later addition to my pantheon of reliable favorites, but the more I played Smash Bros, the more my interest in using him increased, and Lucario became a powerhouse in every region he appeared in. Dragonite was another of my favorites that I found myself using more often than not, and a lot of my teams and playthroughs over the years felt samey and less unique because I limited myself only to Pokemon I was familiar with. For this playthrough, I wanted something unique. I wanted to construct a party of Pokemon friends that I hadn't really ever used before, and while I'm sure some of these will be no-brainers to others, I never went out of my way to use them. My starter pick reflected this philosophy. Squirtle was my near constant companion for adventures in Kanto, and is probably my favorite starter ever. I mean, have you seen Blastoise? Never in my life did I know I needed to answer the question, does strapping heavy artillery to the back of a turtle make it cooler? Because, yeah, it does. Despite my love of Blastoise, I decided to pick Bulbasaur for this playthrough. Not only because I barely had any experience with Bulbasaur in any Pokemon game ever, but because I needed to reconcile with Bulbasaur. I often made fun of him as the third child of Generation 1, the forgotten starter. Not nearly as cool as Squirtle or Charmander. Having regularly picked Squirtle, Bulbasaur was always pitted against me thanks to my rival always picking the type advantage. Oh, speaking of my rival, in the spirit of my younger days, I named him Butt in the tradition of the before times. Anyways, I'd been unfair to Bulbasaur over the years, and this journey was a chance to make things right. Bulbasaur and I set off from Pallet Town, and soon our team grew. We added the obligatory Pidgey, who wouldn't be staying on for the full trip but was useful for the moment, as well as the first mainstay of our party, Mankey, once we got to Viridian City. Mankey was a Pokemon that I'd maybe thought about twice ever. I never used to be particularly crazy about fighting types, but during playthroughs of later versions, I came to appreciate the type much more. Pokemon like Hariyama and Lucario made me change my tune, and now I find fighting types on my Pokemon teams more often than not. They usually have great utility, especially early in games where normal types are abundant. So out of this newfound appreciation for fighting, I decided early on that Mankey was coming with me to the end. And this would be the start of a long and tumultuous partnership between us. We sped through Viridian Forest, adding a Caterpie, which quickly became a Butterfree. Butterfree provided nice early psychic type damage to deal with poison types, proving its worth over and over on the routes leading up to Mount Moon, Nugget Bridge, and on the SS Anne. With Bulbasaur by my side, we cut through Brock without a second thought, and we're off to Mount Moon. Now, I'm not the smartest or most inventive Pokemon player. I'm a living embodiment of the meme of the player who has no use for status afflicting or utility moves. Why would I bother with status effects when the status effect I most wanted to inflict on my enemies was death? Despite that, I found great utility in using Bulbasaur's Leech Seed to help it stay in fights where I had no obvious type advantages on my team. Speaking of the lead up to Mount Moon, on Route 3 we caught the next permanent member of our team, Nidoran Male. Now I know what you're thinking, you said you were going to use Pokemon you never had used before. We were expecting something a bit more uncommon. Truth be told, I had never really used the Nidoran line before. I knew Nidoking's reputation in Gen 1 as an early powerhouse and speedrunning god, but I wanted to see the monster for myself. Thanks to a Moonstone found in Mount Moon, the beast would come online just before my battle with Misty in Cerulean. Nidoking made a great addition to the party alongside mainstays Mankey and Bulbasaur, who had just recently evolved into Ivysaur just before Misty as well. Once again, with Ivysaur's help, we decimated Misty and her water types. Ivysaur was certainly earning its early game reputation and had me feeling good about how the team was coming together so far. With Misty and our rival in the rearview mirror, we were able to continue on to Vermilion City, where we would acquire the next member of our team. And this one was perhaps one of the most surprising to me out of this entire journey. While dealing with the trainers around Cerulean City, we managed to capture an Abra, and upon arriving in Vermilion, we were able to use Diglett's Cave to return to Pewter City and access a house that was previously blocked. Here, we traded our Abra for a Mr. Mime, and he would become the fourth permanent member of the journey. Replacing Butterfree, the freaky Mime was a frail but vicious special attacker with early access to Psybeam, providing the team with hard-hitting psychic damage before the halfway point in the game. Out of all the Pokemon that I journeyed with this playthrough, Mr. Mime was the most outside of my comfort zone. There wasn't any particular reason, he just always freaked me out, from his spindly appendages to those weird hands and the way he stayed with Ash's mom in the anime. But Mr. Mime turned out to be an integral part of this adventure. Sure, his HP stat was garbage, but the Mime hit hard and showed no mercy. The team and I made quick work of Vermilion's challenges. The SSN provided us with some crucial experience before the third gym, and another showdown with our rival unlocked access to the Cut HM. Mankey dealt the killing blow on Butts Raticate if Dark fan theories are to be believed. Lieutenant Surge and the Vermilion Gym also posed little challenge, as Nidoking's typing alongside the Dig TM prevented all attacks from Surge's electric Pokemon from hurting us. Onward, we forged. With Cut, the path to the rock tunnel was now open to us, and our current team served us well against the trainers that occupied these dark tunnels. Once we emerged on the other side, Lavender Town and Celadon City were next, and it was during this stretch of the game that the final two members of our team would join. Catching a Growlithe in the wilds outside of Lavender Town brought our number to 5, and picking up the free Eevee in Celadon completed our group of 6. I know I said I wanted to use new Pokemon in this playthrough, but Arcanine will always have a place on my team, so he's coming with us. Celadon granted us access to the department store where evolutionary stones could be purchased, allowing Growlithe to evolve into my bestest boy and closest friend Arcanine via a Firestone, and Eevee to evolve into Vaporeon to add a crucial water typing to our team. With Arcanine and Vaporeon in the fold, it was off to the game corner for some underage gambling to obtain the TM for Flamethrower. Now remember, the physical special split for moves hadn't occurred yet. Physical and special damage were determined by type. Arcanine was a physical attacker based on his stats, but all fire moves were categorized as special. This handicapped him a little bit, but I wasn't leaving my best boy behind, and stat-boosted 90 power Flamethrower blazed a path through Team Rocket's underground base, right alongside Vaporeon's stab-boosted water pulses. Luckily, Vaporeon's type damage was more aligned with its ridiculously high special stat, and he was able to one-hit KO a lot of enemies without super effective damage, and the rest of this portion of the game didn't stand a chance. Arcanine incinerated Erica's gym, helping us to claim our 4th badge, and we easily cleared the crazy mediums and remaining Rocket members out of Lavender Tower. With the Cut HM, Fly HM, and near full access to the map, the next stage of our journey would feature time spent in Fuchsia and Saffron City. Spirits were high as I felt I had constructed a team of Pokemon that I'd never really used before but were incredibly powerful. But during this next section, I would encounter the most struggles so far of this playthrough. Remember when I mentioned the complicated relationship between myself and Primeape? This is where it really started to get complicated. Primeape had already seen a lot of its battle opportunities go to Arcanine and Vaporeon now that they were with us, and the upcoming gyms featuring poison and psychic types would give him even less chances to get involved. Through sheer force of will, I kept sending Primeape into battle, and even though he stayed close to the party's level, I still felt him lagging behind overall. The normal types he thrived against were becoming less common in trader battles, and he struggled to quickly take out opposing Pokemon even with super effective damage. He eventually gained access to Cross Chop, a powerful fighting move with only 80 accuracy, but it felt far worse than 80 as he struggled to reliably land hits. Our partnership was at a strange place. Mr. Mime, however, thrived in Fuchsia City. His psychic damage absolutely leveled Koga's gym, and his boosted XP from technically being a traded Pokemon easily raised his level and power above those of his teammates. A few quick side trips to the Safari Zone, and we found a secret house with the Surf HM, allowing us to access the last portions of the map, and adding an extremely powerful stab water move to Vaporeon's moveset. We also found some old dude's golden dentures, and in exchange, he gave us the Strength HM, although we probably should have just kept the gold dentures and sold them for money. Saffron City was a different story altogether. It was here that I encountered my first true roadblock of the game. Playing with a new team and not going out of my way to overlevel, I found that I didn't have a solid available answer for Sabrina's gym. Psychic types were already incredibly powerful in Kanto, and a lot of my heavy hitters had a weakness to it, something I had critically overlooked when choosing my permanent teammates based on vibes. She could very easily deal with Venusaur, Nidoking, and Primeape, and what's more, Sabrina's team featured one of the truly terrifying Pokemon in this run, an Alakazam with access to Calm Mind. Already incredibly fast and strong, if Alakazam got off a Calm Mind and wasn't dead in the next turn, it could very easily shred my non-overleveled, non-resisted team. My solution for this problem wasn't great, as I relied on Arcanine and Vaporeon, who each had the underpowered Dark-type move Bite. It was less than ideal, but with a little bit of clever switching and some lucky flinches, we managed to take down Sabrina's Psychic types one at a time. Oh, before that, we also handled the Team Rocket threat at Silphco. We traversed the maze-like floors of the corporation, while Arcanine and Vaporeon continued to earn their reputation as rocket killers. Primeape would also hit a bit of a mini stride, a bit of a mini redemption arc here as well, marking another evolution of our up and down relationship. He hit cross chops and one-shot almost every Pokemon I sent him up against. By the time we reached Giovanni, his ground types were no match for Venusaur and Vaporeon. Our rival fight was also no issue, as our team had answers for almost all of his Pokemon. After Saffron and our toughest stretch of the game so far, it was off to Cinnabar Island. The watery routes leading up to the 7th gym were loaded with water types, the perfect opportunity for Venusaur to flex. I also made another quick trip back to Celadon for some more underage gambling, and with our winnings picked up the Thunderbolt TM for Nidoking. Strong as he was, he'd seen a lot of his battle opportunities go to Vaporeon and Arcanine, so teaching him Thunderbolt allowed him to get in on some of the action on the way to Cinnabar. Speaking of Cinnabar, there really isn't much to report here, but this was absolutely Vaporeon's section of the game. He dominated with Surf, and Nidoking even made the occasional appearance. Blaine's fire types were completely waterlogged, and we were only one badge away from the Pokemon League. I wish I had more of an exciting story for the Viridian gym as well, but I don't, honestly. Spoiler alert, Giovanni's the gym leader, but his gym posed little challenges. I really started to feel my team hit their stride. This was definitely a high point in the adventure. Everyone was contributing to battles. Giovanni and our rival fight that followed didn't really challenge us at all. Even the foreboding Victory Road barely slowed us down. If anything, it only increased my confidence that this specific group of Pokemon, albeit with some obvious flaws, was ready for the final challenge, the Elite Four. After a brief training session to get all my teammates up to level 50, a nice round number yet significantly under the levels of the Elite Four Pokemon, it was time for our final challenge. Lorelei was up first with a scary combination of Ice, Water, and Psychic types set to test us in Stage 1. Despite our troubles and our misunderstandings, Primeape was going to lead off the entire Elite Four challenge against Dugong, taking advantage of Fighting type's strength over Ice to score a quick knockout with Brick Break. Slowbro came in next, a terrifying Pokemon for my team thanks to its access to Psychic and Ice type moves. Venusaur was weak against it and a gamble, but I put my faith in my starter Using growth to raise our special attack was countered by a terrifying amnesia from Slowbro, making it harder to kill even with the type advantage and boosted special attack. I had to go for another. Boosted Giga Drain negated the damage that super effective Ice Beam caused, and a clutch critical secured the one-hit kill. Lapras, Lorelai's ace, was next but was no match for boosted Venusaur. Then came Jinx, a truly terrifying monster that I realized I only had one strong answer to, and that was Arcanine. My best, most loyal friend comes in and we gamble on an overheat to secure the one-hit kill, and it falls just short while severely lowering Arcanine's special attack. Jinx retaliates with a Lovely Kiss, and I decide to switch into Primeape, knowing that Lorelai will heal next turn. I trust in Primeape's Cross Chop to get the job done, and Jinx barely survives once again. Attract is the counter, and I know Primeape is done for as Lorelai heals up again. I have to leave Primeape in for the sacrifice to get a clean switch into Venusaur, which was just not the right move at all. I don't know what I was thinking. Lovely Kiss put Venusaur to sleep right away. A KO follows a few turns later. I'm out of options. Arcanine was asleep and weakened. Nidoking comes in and fires off an Earthquake, and once again, just manages to miss killing this Jinx, who retaliates with an Ice Punch and the one-hit knockout on Nidoking. But Lorelai's out of healing items, and Jinx is a sliver away from being put in the ground for good. So I send in my speedy, freaky mime friend to take an easy kill. One Calm Mind later, and the mime had put Lorelai's last partner, Cloyster, in the ground. The seesaw of this first Elite Four battle was representative of the entire final stretch of this game. On paper, I had the teammates and the types to deal with each Elite Four member, but something would always go wrong. I was banking on a combination of Vaporeon and Mr. Mime to deal with Bruno's fighting and rock types, but a clever Rock Tomb from Hitmonchan slowed Mr. Mime down enough to allow Hitmonlee to take him out. From there, I had to rely on a chaotic rotation of Nidoking, Venusaur, and Arcanine to right the ship against Bruno's Machamp. And this battle featured another opportunity for Primeape, who came in and defeated Hitmonlee to secure the win with our team pretty thinned out. Another win, yet casualties were piling up and we were burning through healing items fast. Agatha and her ghosts were up next, an intimidating team to be sure, but I had my secret weapon. The mime, who I had brought along this entire game just for this fight specifically. It was his time to shine. Agatha's leadoff Gengar was scary, but it used double team, allowing Mr. Mime to get off an uncontested Calm Mind. Despite increased evasion, Gengar couldn't evade the psychic powers of the mime, who proceeded to wipe her whole team, with the exception of Arbok. Nidoking took the assist on that one. Lance's dragons were just as scary. I didn't have an answer for them at all really, just Vaporeon who knew Blizzard. Usually I have dragon types in my party to help with other dragon types, but in this playthrough I wanted to avoid them. Lance's leadoff Gyarados was definitely a big issue, as Gyarados' dual water flying type made Venusaur not nearly as effective against him as I wanted him to be. This is the reason I had obtained a Thunderbolt TM and taught it to Nidoking. 4 times super effective damage was a good trade-off for putting Nidoking in harm's way, and although it didn't kill Gyarados in one hit, it drained one of Lance's healing items. After this, it was Vaporeon's time to shine, and he shined brilliantly, getting kills on Aerodactyl and both Dragonairs. Dragonite came in and Vaporeon hit the low accuracy Blizzard to score the quick knockout. The evolution I had never used was quickly becoming a personal favorite of mine, a tanky powerhouse that was hitting big moves exactly when I needed them. With Lance down, only our rival, Champion Butt, remained. His team was meticulously crafted to cover most weaknesses, and he had an answer for pretty much everything on my team. This was the most back and forth battle of the entire playthrough. There were very serious moments that it looked like I wasn't going to be able to pull this off with the team I had assembled. Butt's team was just too good, too high level for my ragtag group that had accompanied me this entire journey. But really, this team was the story of this playthrough, and just as they had before, They began hitting all the right moves exactly when I needed them to. Nidoking and his Thunderbolt zapped Pidgeot out of the sky. Arcanine fell to Alakazam and Rhydon, but Vaporeon came in with an avenging Surf. Butt sent out Executor next, but with Arcanine down, I didn't have a strong answer. It's here that Primeape made his last great play of the run, coming in to tank a few hits so that I could revive Arcanine back to fighting form. As Primeape fell, I couldn't help but feel gratitude. Despite our journey, despite how I had constantly felt about him, about how he continually fell just short of my expectations, he did whatever I asked, and it was his sacrifice that was the assist for Arcanine to come in and incinerate Butt's plan once and for all. Gyarados came in next, and Nidoking was hungry. His Gyarados hunting spree would continue as he brought lightning from the heavens down on his foe for quadruple damage. Alakazam returned, but was finally defeated thanks to Nidoking, Mr. Mime, Vaporeon, and Arcanine. Arcanine remained in, throwing his body against the champ's Charizard with Double Edge, dealing enough damage to soften him up for Vaporeon to come in and extinguish his reign forever. And just like that, my latest adventure in Kanto came to a close, with a group of Pokemon that I had never climbed that mountain with before, with a team that didn't have all the answers, that was severely underleveled, but at the end of the day, they were champions. As I mentioned before, I was a creature of habit when it came to Pokemon. I played with my favorites, maybe occasionally discovering a new favorite or two in each region, but this playthrough with a team of Pokemon I was unfamiliar with was pretty exhilarating. You see, you can play through the regions and experience the stories, but thanks to the sheer number of Pokemon available in these games, there's an opportunity for emergent storytelling with each playthrough thanks to the infinite possibilities of team crafting. Even though this trip through Kanto felt familiar, I had a new appreciation for that journey because of the Pokemon that came along with me, and I had grown to appreciate each and every one of them along the way. Venusaur and the ability to reliably sustain itself in battle, Nidoking as a terrifying and constant source of massive damage, Mr. Mime as freaky, speedy heavy hitter that faints in a light breeze, Arcanine, an old and familiar friend, Vaporeon, the tanky evolution whose special attack damage was so clutch, and even Primeape, despite all of our trust issues. In fact, he was probably most representative of this playthrough overall, where I was at times unsure of what I wanted out of revisiting this game again. It definitely wasn't the same as it was before, but I think I was able to find something unique in this familiar journey after all. I want to avoid coming off as an older person standing on my soapbox yelling about how the past was so much better and if only things went back to the way they used to be. But for those of us who were around for the beginning of Pokemon at the right age, Generation 1 was special. Again, I know I'm playing Generation 3 Fire Red, but just roll with me here. If you were born between the late 80s and early 90s, odds are you were the perfect age range to at least be aware of Pokemon when it first arrived in North America in 1998. In those days, internet adoption was still pretty low, and most of the time when you were introduced to something new, it was through things that your friends like, or TV advertising, or just thinking it looked cool in the store. Pokemon was the first time, at least in my life, where it felt like something big arrived that me and all of my friends were aware of and experienced at the exact same time together. Everyone in my class knew about Pokemon, and even the teachers at the time recognized how big of a phenomenon it was. We snuck our Game Boys to school in our backpacks to play at recess. Sleepovers revolved around staying up late to catch, trade, and battle Pokemon while we discovered the game's secrets together without the help of the internet or dozens of different articles telling you how to play the game correctly, 10 things to know before starting X game. Playground rumors about mysteries in the game led to frantic searches and hours of conversations. We were hungry to experience everything that the games had to offer, and we did it together in an act of social gaming that was so unique at the time, even though video games were becoming more mainstream. Lunchtime turned into the Pokemon stock exchange as we haggled and traded the latest cards. Pokemon was all-encompassing. It truly was one of the most significant social and cultural events of our young lives. I made brand new friends, some of who I still keep in touch with to this day because of Pokemon, and we experienced it together, all at the same time, with all of the whimsy and curiosity that childhood could offer. Remember at the start of this video when I said that replaying Fire Red felt like home, past tense? Well, that's because it did. What I call home now, today, is drastically different from what I did when I was younger. My home today consists of not just the newer place I live in, but the newer relationships I have with my wife and my kids. Going back to where you grew up, to the place you used to call home, can stir up fond or painful memories. Sure, the roads are still there, the homes, maybe the places you used to eat and the parks you used to hang out at are still all around. Maybe you can even drive by your old childhood home, now inhabited by a complete stranger. Maybe for some of you, this place is still home, but for a lot of us, it's not anymore. We've moved on, we've laid down roots somewhere else, we drive different roads, live in different homes, eat and shop at different places now. And most importantly, the relationships that may have defined our childhood are now different. That was when I realized something. Yes, I had just replayed Fire Red and journeyed through the Kanto region. I walked the same paths, caught the same Pokemon, battled the same trainers. It had all of the makings of a familiar Pokemon adventure that I had been on dozens of times. But it wasn't just the adventure that made the original Red and Blue so special to me when I was a kid. It was who I went on that adventure with. My friends and the relationships we formed, the memories we made playing this silly monster catching game from Japan, became intrinsically woven into my experience and thoughts about the game itself. The reason Kanto holds such a special place in my heart and in the hearts of many around the same age as me is because we experienced that adventure together. We discovered the mysteries together. We battled together. We caught them all together. That social aspect was always a core component of the Pokemon experience. It's the reason they sold two separate versions of the game other than money, and continue to do so to this day. Pokemon Generation 1 was such a sweet spot between the explosion of video games into the popular mainstream and wide adoption of the internet, and it would be virtually impossible to create an experience around a game like that today. It literally was a perfect storm of culture, changing technology, social interaction, timing, and just a sprinkle of aggressive marketing. On the surface and compared to more recent and modern Pokemon games today, Kanto is fairly unremarkable. Its low number of Pokemon seems so limited compared to the bigger Pokédexes of newer generations. It doesn't feel nearly as massive compared to regions like Galar or Paldea. It lacks a lot of streamlined improvements like physical special split and other things that we've come to accept as core staples of the series' identity today. But Generation 1, Kanto, this place still means the most to me. I got to experience this event with great friends and make great memories that weren't influenced by the internet or content made spoiling the game or telling me what I should think of it. I learned about the missing no glitch on a playground, for God's sakes. A glitch like that today would be heavily reported on when the game came out and would have been patched to oblivion. But learning about that glitch organically and watching it corrupt and destroy my save file was part of the social experience that defines my thoughts and feelings on the game and the experience. That's what was missing from my most recent adventure through Kanto. Unlike playing Red and Blue on playgrounds and late at sleepovers with friends, I played Fire Red by myself, in between baby feeding shifts, in the middle of the night in my room. The foundation of this series that I keep coming back to was built on a mix of loving the games for what they are, combined with sharing that love and adventure with a group of people I really cared about. But nowadays, my Pokemon experiences are mostly solo. Pokemon games still come out, they still release multiple versions of the mainline games, and they still sell a ton of copies. But the way we interact and communicate has evolved since 1998. You won't see people in parks or on playgrounds hooking up Nintendo Switches with link cables to battle and trade. You can now hop online to battle and trade, never having to meet in person. Sure, we share our experience of playing the latest Pokemon games online, but it isn't the same as sitting beside your friend and discovering a brand new world together. I've played every generation of Pokemon, and the way in which I experience and engage with them has changed. They aren't social experiences anymore. They are solo adventures I undertake to explore a new world and see new Pokemon. And that kind of matches the nature of growing up, at least for me. We move away, we lose contact with others, our friend circles shrink to smaller numbers as we try to juggle personal relationships with the responsibilities of everyday life. I don't love Pokemon just because of what Pokemon is. I love it because of the memories I made with others and what it taught me about friendship and socializing during some of the most formative years of my life. Just like returning to your old home, it may have all the characteristics of the place you used to live, but it can't recreate the feelings of growing up there. It wasn't the specific places or buildings, it wasn't the physical defining attributes of the location that you lived, but rather it was the people you lived there with, the friends you made along the way, the memories you shared with them and with family that influenced so many of our emotions about the places that we used to inhabit. Life changes, people move on, you move on, and those things can never be the same as they were. What you're left with is the memories of the experiences that you cherish, and those memories inform the way you approach the world in the present and help you to understand the things you truly value. It would be impossible to recreate the conditions that Generation 1 debuted in today. That's an experience that we will never likely have again, but we have the memories, and the memories and relationships are what really made home feel like home. I mentioned in this video that home evolves, it changes. Over the past half decade, I've gotten married and had 3 sons. That's home to me now, and as they've started to grow up, I've begun to share things with them that I love. My oldest loves Spider-Man, my favorite superhero. He has to watch Spidey every day. When they get a bit older, I plan to share my love of video games with them too, including Pokemon, as it's a pretty great beginner-friendly RPG. Maybe they'll like it, and maybe they won't. That will be for them to decide. But if they do like it, that will drastically redefine the way I think about the series. I'll have people I love and care about to share those adventures with once again, and we'll be able to discover those brand new worlds together. And with 30 plus years of Pokemon adventures to explore, maybe that feeling of home will extend to those other games as well. Until then, this playthrough of Fire Red left me with a new feeling and a new appreciation for this 30-year-old series. One that was defined by the Pokemon that came on the journey with me, and the new paradigm of a different life than the one I had before. If you made it to the end of this heartfelt conversation, I sincerely thank you for listening, and thank you so much to the Unlockables community for the continued support, for the glacial pace at which I put out my content. It really means the world to me that you're still here, sticking around, even though I don't have quite as much time to devote to this as I used to. If you like what you heard, I have more videos coming on a bunch of different topics, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, and I would love to hear about some of your Pokemon experiences growing up in the comments below. Until then, thanks for watching, and remember, it's not just the story of video games, it's the story of you.